Hello and welcome. My name is Nikki. I am so excited that you are here today with us. The lesson that I will be doing is all about self-love. But before we get started, I just wanted to run us through a very quick guided meditation. So, find yourself in, you can either sit, lay down, whatever you find comfortable. And once you get in that position, we are going to either close our eyes or just gently look down at the ground. And of course, if you are driving, please do not do the meditation part. Now, once we get into that comfortable position, we're going to start by doing 3 deep breaths and exhale. So, all right, now I want you to place your hands over your heart, and we're going to be inhaling for a count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then exhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And while we are breathing in, I just want you to imagine that there is a light coming down from above and entering the top of your head. And this light could be whatever color you choose, whatever feels good. It could be white, gold, pink, purple. Just whichever color feels good for you. And now, this light entering through the top of our head, there's just so much love within it as well. And now I want you to imagine it just entering and going through first to your heart. And then once your heart is full, that it spreads out through the rest of your body. And then every exhale, I just imagine whatever is not serving you in this present moment is being released. So the light comes in with every inhale, and whatever is not serving us is being released. And we're just going to sit here and keep breathing in that light until it's coming out from our fingertips, our toes. Alrighty. Now, we're just gonna do a few more. And when you feel ready, I want you to start wiggling your toes, your fingers, moving around, and come on back. Alright, so as I said, the subject today is all about finding self-love within. Now let's start with, why is this so important? Well, if we don't love ourselves, then we are naturally not going to attract the things that we might really want. We might work really hard on goals, or we might be looking for that new relationship, but without realizing, if we don't love ourselves first, we might not think we are worthy of it, deserving, and our subconscious will actually make sure and push those things away. So a little story of mine of where this was really showing up in my life. I had found myself attracting very toxic partners, and if I did happen to find someone who was healthy, I would do everything to sabotage. And of course, at the time, I didn't realize that that is what I was doing, and I kept being like, why do these relationships keep falling apart? Or why do I keep attracting these toxic people? And it took some time for me to realize that I was attracting all of this because I didn't actually love myself, and I didn't think I was even worthy of love. And so that's how it kept showing up for me. And it wasn't until I had gone through a very toxic, abusive relationship, found myself just depressed, severely anxious, constantly living in that fight or flight mode, unhealthy, and I had to actually, my mental health got so bad that I found myself in an outpatient treatment multiple times in 1 year before I finally left that person. I had a therapist at the time who, after I'd already exited that relationship, I brought this up to her and I kept asking, why am I attracting this? Why does this keep coming in? And she looks at me and she just goes, you cannot truly love someone until you love yourself. And that one hit home for me. That was like a light bulb moment, and I was like, oh, okay, so I can't actually truly be there for someone, even if it's someone healthy and someone who I might want to be with, until I love myself. Okay. And that was when, for me, I finally said, oh, I'm going to do everything I can to find that love within before even trying, and this was just personal, before trying to find that next relationship of mine. And so I get asked all the time now, well, how? How did you actually do it? How did you find it? And I had to start small and kind of work my way up, because it definitely did not happen overnight. It all had to start with the healing journey, and like I said, had to start small because the self-loathing I had within was so bad that even if I just tried affirmations and just saying like, I love you or anything like that, that was not happening. So I had to start doing small, actionable little steps before I could even get to that part. Okay, so one of the very first actions that I took was I had to actually start to trust myself again. I did not realize that that was also a piece. In order to feel self-love, I also kind of needed to trust myself. And I could show up for others, and if they asked me to do something, I would do it. I hated letting people down, but I didn't realize how much I was letting myself down. I would tell myself I would do things and not do them, wouldn't follow through, and it could be as simple as just cleaning up the kitchen. I'm gonna clean up the kitchen today. Did I? I didn't. And all those not taking little actions and breaking those tiny promises to myself was starting to really build up. So what I started with, the first was just small actionable items as cleaning the kitchen, doing laundry, and one thing at a time, and then I would make sure I did that one thing that day. And then it built up to where I would add multiple, and the item itself might be a little bit larger, whichever. But starting to show up for myself and not breaking promises just as I would for someone else was very important. I also was someone who I could not do anything alone. Like, if I had a friend cancel dinner, then I was eating at home. I never felt comfortable going out to eat, any activity outside my house if I didn't have someone with me. So I started taking myself out on dates and getting comfortable being alone. Going back to that relationship example, because I hadn't loved myself and because I wasn't comfortable being alone, I caught myself also just being in very codependent relationships on top of them always being kind of toxic, because I needed so much validation because I couldn't find it within. So I was always reaching and searching for this validation from others because I didn't know how to give it to myself. And so by taking myself out on dates and getting comfortable being alone, that was also helping me find that validation within, so I didn't always have to search and look other places. And like I said, it was very uncomfortable. I started with doing a once a week dinner night, and for me it was taking myself to sushi. Sometimes I would go pack a picnic, and I would take it up. At the time I lived in California, and I would go and I would hike up and take a picnic up off the mountain, so I was overlooking to the Pacific Ocean. And I started really romanticizing my life a lot. I started hiking and camping by myself. I would go, and on the weekends during winter, I'd go up to Tahoe and go snowboarding by myself. I no longer needed anyone to be there in order for me to live my life. One of the biggest things that I did was I started taking dancing lessons, and I would go to these salsa clubs by myself, and I'd have to ask some stranger, hey, will you dance with me? Because for me that was that was so uncomfortable, so much fear behind that, and which addressing some of these little fears also was bringing me in confidence, oh, I can do this. Oh, see, it's not that scary. Which just even having confidence, right, helps with self-love. So I really did try to do things outside of my comfort zone, things that scared me, doing things by myself, because by taking those little actions of even that was what was helping bring some confidence, and how I started showing up differently too. And so once I kind of had, these little building blocks, so the confidence, the trust, my self-esteem started getting a little bit better. And this is just my timeline. This doesn't have to be everyone's timeline by any means. But then I noticed, once I got comfortable being alone and I found validation within myself, and I wasn't looking outside for all of that external validation, I didn't necessarily feel that need anymore to people please and to have certain people in my life. And don't get me wrong, I still very much love a lot of the people I had to step away from, and I only wish them well, but they were, I had toxic friendships. And I had to put boundaries up, because I realized one of the biggest forms of self-love is setting boundaries. Protecting your own self, protecting your peace. But at the time, as I was going through all this, I had never set a boundary in my life. I let people walk all over me. I just did everything that I could trying to make other people happy, which was draining me. A lot of times it was actually going against my own values, which made me feel worse about myself. And so I really started setting boundaries. And in the process of setting those boundaries, I noticed that some people who didn't respect them, I had to be okay with letting them go, because I didn't want to be treated like that anymore. And finally, I'd reached a point where I was I am starting to kind of care about myself, that I'm realizing that this isn't healthy and this isn't good for me. And that was also when I realized too, along with the boundary setting, going back to the values I just talked about, I got very clear on what my values were. And I told myself that these are my values, and if anything that someone asks me to do goes against these, I am no longer going to do it because I no longer want to go and, disregard my own values anymore. That's no longer me. So that's where you, very much so, getting crystal clear on those values for yourself. Like, what is very important for you? Mine are honesty, adventure, love, are just my top 3. And a little story, I guess, on the values, and something that people would ask of me was, I had a friend in my life who would constantly cheat, and then she would have me lie for her. She would say, hey, if my partner calls, tell them I was with you. And I hated doing that. But because I didn't want to make her mad, I did it anyway. And those are things, because it's not being honest or truthful, those are, that would be something I would no longer do for someone. Because it didn't feel good for me to even do that at all. And I was always feeling guilty and felt sorry for that other person, because I was also friends with that other person too. And it just, I felt almost like a bad person because I was doing that for someone else. So all of those negative feelings that I was feeling because I was breaking the values, well, guess what? Also at time, that was what was making me not really love myself much. So, and then as I worked through those, I had finally gotten to the point where I was comfortable using affirmations. So I started including that in a daily routine. I would do, I had this wonderful journal, which I really miss because I filled it all out. And I haven't been able to find it since, but how it was laid out was morning and nighttime, and you went through where you wrote down positive affirmations, things you were grateful for, and you set intentions for the day. And I loved this little book. And then at the end, you would put you would finish with an affirmation at the end of the night, gratitude, what went well that day, and then also what was your moods throughout the day. And so I started those affirmations and gratitude just daily, multiple times a day, including that. And I even got to the point where I was able to look at myself in the mirror and just look in my eyes and say, I love you. I love you so much. I love you and I forgive you for everything. Because also, you have to forgive. In order to accept and love, there has to be also forgiveness in there. And one of the things that really helped me with that forgiveness piece was understanding that I was doing the best I could with what I knew. And so I want you to remember that too, that anything that might have happened in your past, you were doing the best that you could do with the tools that you had at that time. And that's it. That's all we can expect others to do, right? So, that forgiveness piece was huge for me. And once all of these things compounded and built, I finally, for the first time at 28, fell in love with myself. And I will always remember that day. I went up, I was doing a hike near Mount Shasta, and funny enough, the lake that I was hiking up to is called Heart Lake. Well, I was with a friend of mine, and we are starting our hike, and I just happened to look down, and I find about this size pink quartz just laying there. And I picked it up. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. At the time, I knew nothing about crystals. And my friend, he goes, do you know what that represents? And I was like, no, I just think it's pretty. And he goes, well, pink quartz actually represents love. And something in me just, I can't even, like, it was just like a wave, just, tidal wave just hit me, washes over me, and I just start sobbing. I mean, I just was crying, holding this rock, and I remember looking at him, and I was just like, you're gonna think I'm nuts. Like, I'm sitting here sobbing, we're doing this hike, and I look at him, I'm like, I'm crying. Please don't think I'm crazy, but I'm crying because I've realized that I do love myself, and I've never felt that before. And it's taken me this long to realize that I finally have gotten here. And I mean, just that feeling in your heart, you know, that feeling when, you know, you might look at like your animal, if you have kids, your kids, and that's that just feeling like your heart is going to burst because you just love them so much. For the first time, I finally felt that for me. I finally felt that feeling. And I was like, oh, wow. So this is what it's like. And so my life has drastically changed since feeling that. I found the healthy relationship. And there are still times where I'm like, is this real? Like, is this what a relationship is supposed to be like? And I have to kind of, reel myself in and be like, yes, how good can it get? Like, don't worry about if the shoe's gonna drop, just think of how good can it get. And so I finally found that relationship. I finally, like, a lot of my goals and things I've been attracting and trying to finish, I do. I no longer put things off. If just recently I found myself, which the job itself I absolutely loved. I was just taking care of plants. Huge plant person. One day a dream of mine, like, I think I'd be, would also love having a plant nursery, add to the list of things and goals I want to try. But anyway, love the job itself, but the environment was very toxic. And I had it in me to be like, this isn't serving me anymore. Like, it's okay, if I step away and find something that fits, that's more authentic and fits me and energetically is what I'm looking for. And so, being okay to walk away from certain situations and just attracting the things I want to attract, and just my life has become very magical because of all that. And that is because I finally had the love. I'm no longer self-sabotaging, and I'm no longer pushing away when good things do happen. I no longer allow people to take advantage of me. And that's really the beautiful piece, I think, too, of just finding that self-love, of just opening having your life just completely change all around. And it is, I think every day is a wonderful day. Even if things get a little hairy or they don't quite go how they should be, I love now that I can find those little pockets of little magical moments in every day. And finding the love within me, I think, has also just changed drastically every relationship in my life, because it's just by loving myself, I really do think I'm able to love others how they deserve to be loved as well. And I can meet them where they're at, where they aren't at, like my empathy I have, the understanding, the non-judgment. And don't get me wrong, like, there are still days, right? Ego shows up and all that. That's normal, we're human. But ego even no longer runs my life, which is wonderful as well. So yes, just a little quick recap. Why is self-love important? It helps us also attract and bring in more of what we're looking for and want. Things to help, depending on where you're at, start doing little things to build trust. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Boundary setting. I know it's hard, but you gotta set the boundaries. Start taking yourself out on dates. Start showing up for yourself the way you would show up for someone else you loved. Simple as that. Romanticize your life. I don't know why I got that weird accent, but romanticize your life. And get crystal clear on your values. Kind of on hand with the boundary setting, and just say, these are my values and I no longer want to go against them. I want to live for my values. So I do have some homework for you. And first one, I want you to take yourself on a date. Sometime this week, take yourself on that date. And I mean, go all out. Maybe it's your favorite restaurant. Maybe you try something new. Or maybe you go to the really fancy restaurant that you've wanted to go to but felt like it was too expensive. Just go all out on this, okay? And that means even if you love flowers, get yourself those flowers or whatever, whatever. But really just take yourself on that date and treat you like the queen or king you are. The second homework is set one boundary. Set a boundary. Obviously, if it needs to be set, if a boundary needs to be set, I should say, but to set that boundary. And then after the fact, and maybe even before, maybe there's a boundary that you kind of need to set, but you've been really scared. So journal about that. Journal why it's making you nervous to set it. But then I also want you to journal, if this is before, to journal, but how would it make me feel if I said it and they respected it? How would that make me feel? Now, for journaling after the fact, how did it feel to set that boundary? And then maybe how do you feel after you said it, with that or towards that person? And that the third piece of homework is write a letter to yourself and put the amount of kindness, compassion, love into it as if you were writing it for a friend who made a mistake, but write it for yourself. Yes. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a beautiful day. And as always, I love you.